voice and tone. Mason's voice is distinct and authentic. The gritty blue-collar cadence and internal monologue feel lived in and real. Emotion. The hurt is palpable. The betrayal unfolds gradually but painfully, which keeps the reader hooked. Details, specifics like granddad's watch, borrowed tie, cold ramen, and textbook on her chest create a textured, vivid world. Themes, the core themes, sacrifice, invisibility, class divide, betrayal, and self-worth, are timeless and hit hard. What could be improved? Pacing. The story is long and emotionally intense. It might benefit from trimming or splitting into 2 acts, the build-up and the fallout. Paragraph structure. Right now, it reads like one massive stream of consciousness. Breaking it into more manageable, clearly defined paragraphs would improve readability and give key moments room to breathe. Clarity and typos. There are some minor typos and repeated or cut-off words. RW shock, Sti's mouth, kicked the wall, the thud loud, etc. A careful proofreading pass would help clean these up. Development of Camille. Right now, Camille is mostly a symbol of betrayal. A few lines hinting at her internal conflict or her perspective might deepen the emotional complexity without making her sympathetic if that's not the goal. I couldn't afford to miss that shift. Rent was due, and her textbooks weren't. Cheap. I came home shaking, barely able to stand. She was there at the table, buried in notes, eyes tired but focused. When she looked up and saw me, her face shifted to worry. "Mason, you're burning up," she said softly. "Go to bed." I shook my head. "I'm fine." She got up anyway, made me soup, sat beside me while I ate. Her fingers brushed mine, soft against the calluses I'd earned. "I couldn't do this without you," she whispered. I fell asleep next to her that night, thinking we were solid. But looking back, that was one of the last times I felt close to her. After that, she started slipping away. Longer nights out, shorter conversations, excuses stacking like junk mail. I told myself it was stress, that once she got through it all, she'd come back. I was wrong. The memory faded as I sat in my truck, fingers numb, keys digging into my palm. I'd given her everything, my time, my money, my heart. She took it all, then gave it to someone else. I thought of that condo near campus, the one I paid for, never lived in. I stayed behind in that dump with paper-thin walls and a leaky roof so she could be closer to school. I skipped meals, worked through injuries, let my life shrink to the size of her dream. And now she was standing beside Julian, telling me I didn't fit her world, like I was a stain she outgrew. I slammed the truck door, climbed the stairs to my apartment. The place smelled like motor oil and stale coffee, like always. I dropped onto the couch, stared at the ceiling, and let the anger settle. Not just at her, at myself. I'd seen the signs, heard the warnings, but I loved her too much to face the truth. Not anymore. I sat up, jaw clenched, eyes sweeping over the life I'd let slip away. The pawned watch, the missed moments, the years I poured into her. Gone. But I wasn't. I was still here, still breathing, still me. She could keep her new world, her new fiancé. I'd find my own. Not for her, not for anyone, just for me. That was enough. A few nights later, I stood outside a swanky downtown venue in a suit I hadn't worn since the wedding we never had. It was Camille and Julian's engagement party. They moved fast. I wasn't invited, didn't expect to be. Sadie told me about it, her voice tight with disbelief. "She's acting like you never existed, Mason." I hadn't planned to. Come. I'd kept my head down since the graduation, fixing cars, loading boxes, driving strangers, but something in me wouldn't let it go. Not revenge, not exactly, I just needed them to know I wasn't invisible. So there I was, boots loud on pavement, envelope in hand. The doorman looked me over like I was a stray. Name? Mason. Reed. He scanned the list, shook his head. Not on here. I won't be long, I said. Just dropping something off. He hesitated, then waved me in. Inside was all gold and glass, chandeliers, champagne, laughter like nothing had ever gone wrong for these people. I saw her instantly, Camille, radiant in white, Julian by her side, arms snug around her waist. I stayed back for a moment, then moved, slow but steady. Her eyes found mine. Her smile faltered. She leaned into Julian, whispering. Too late. I stepped onto the stage, tapped the mic. The sharp crack silenced the room. Every head turned. I held up the envelope. Evening. I'm Mason Reed. You don't know me, but I've got a story to tell. I opened the envelope. 6 years ago, Camille said she wanted to be a doctor. I told her I'd make it happen, and I did. I held up the first page. This is every dollar I spent, over $220,000. Textbooks, rent, tuition. I worked 3 jobs, mechanic, warehouse, Uber. I pawned my granddad's watch. I missed my mother's funeral. I looked at her. I didn't do it for thanks. I did it because I loved her. But last week, at her graduation, she introduced this man as her husband and me as a friend who helped out. I flipped through the pages, dates, bank statements, a spreadsheet that took me hours. I lived in a one-room dump so she could live in a downtown condo. I worked through fevers, 16-hour days, and I wasn't even on the guest list tonight. Camille was frozen. Julian looked like he wanted to step in. I looked at her one last time. I may not be the man beside her tonight, but I'm the reason she made it here. I placed the papers on the podium, then I walked out. Someone clapped, a sharp, lonely sound. Others gasped. I didn't look back. Her voice followed me out the door. Mason, wait. But I didn't. Outside, the cold hit me. Fresh, real. Sadie caught up a block away. That was insane, she said, breathless. Are you okay? I nodded. They're freaking out, she added. You shook them. I didn't do it for them, I said. I did it for me. She looked at me, soft, searching. You didn't have to. I did, I said. She doesn't get to erase me. She let go of my arm. What? Now? I go home, I said. Figure it out tomorrow. She watched me walk away, and for the first time in years, I felt light. Not happy, but unburdened. They couldn't unhear the truth, and I didn't need their applause. I didn't need her apology. I'd taken back my story, my worth. It wasn't much compared to their world, but it was mine, and for now, that was enough. Voice and tone. Mason's inner voice is raw and authentic. His grounded, working-class tone is consistent throughout, which anchors the reader in his worldview. Pacing. The rise from obscurity to reluctant fame is paced well. The media attention escalating, then gradually transforming into something meaningful, mirrors his personal growth. Character arc, Mason's arc, from heartbreak and bitterness to quiet empowerment, is deeply satisfying. By the end, he's not driven by revenge, but by self-worth. Supporting characters. Sty is a solid foil, supportive but realistic. Her presence offers emotional grounding and occasional confrontation, which keeps Mason's head from spinning too far in either self-pity or vengeance. Suggestions for improvement. Paragraph breaks. Consider adding more paragraph breaks. Right now, it's a long wall of text. Structuring it into shorter paragraphs will make it much easier to read and let important emotional beats breathe. Camille's depth. Camille is largely a shadowy figure, adding a brief moment, perhaps a flashback, to when their relationship was good could make her betrayal sting more and feel less one-dimensional. Tightening repetition, phrases like, "I just wanted peace," "I'm not a hero," and "I didn't ask for this" recur often. Some repetition is good for tone, but streamlining a few will enhance the impact. Ending. Impact. The final interaction with the lawyer is a bit abrupt. Consider ending more decisively, either with Mason rejecting the lawsuit outright or reflecting on what true justice means to him. The timing felt right. At 48:31, I cut him off. "No," I said, firm. "I'm done fighting her. Let her live with it." He sighed like I was the fool and hung up. But I didn't care. Money wouldn't give me back those years. It couldn't erase her words. I'd rather build something new than claw through the ruins of what we had. I signed the lease that week. My name, bold and clean, went up on the door, Reed's Auto. And it didn't stop there. The clinic program grew. More families, more thank yous for keeping it real. I was moving forward, no looking back. That night, I sat alone on my couch, the TV off, listening to the quiet. Camille's last text buzzed in my thoughts, but I didn't touch my phone. She never thought I'd leave. She'd never seen me. Not really. I was her rock, her bank, her shadow. She figured I'd stay, but I wasn't that man anymore. I was Mason Reed, mechanic, consultant, the man who stood up and walked away. She'd face her reckoning. I'd face mine by building something of my own. I leaned back, closed my eyes, and let it go. The past was hers to carry. The future? That was mine, and it felt solid, real. 1 year later, grand opening of Forge. I stood on the stage, hands buried in my pockets. A crowd buzzed below, stirred up like a hive. It had been a year since that night in the parking lot. A year since Camille tore my world apart. But here I was, 36, still a mechanic, but something more. Behind me stood Forge, brick, steel, and sweat. A repair shop, yes, but also a mentorship center. A place for kids like I once was to learn a trade, fix a car, build a life. The sign above read, Forge, strength through work. I chose every word myself. Local entrepreneurs flanked me. Guys who'd invested after my story went viral. Sadie was there too, running the community side. She'd stuck by me when no one else did, saw the truth in me when I couldn't. I looked at the crowd, kids, parents, neighbors, and my chest tightened, not from nerves, from pride. I stepped up to the mic. "I'm Mason Reed," I said, voice rough from a long day. "A year ago, I was working 3 jobs, holding up someone else's dream. That ended. But I didn't. This place, Forge, it's for the ones who don't stop either. You don't need a degree to make something of yourself. You need grit, hands that work, and a shot. That's what we're giving." The crowd clapped. Loud. Real. Sadie took over with the details, schedules, programs, the stuff she's brilliant at. I watched her, grateful. She saw me, really saw me, before I even knew who I was. That afternoon, kids ran around the shop like it was a playground. I showed them how to change a tire. Their eyes lit up like I'd handed them treasure. One skinny kid, Jake, 16, chipped tooth, asked, "You're the guy from the video, right? The one who didn't quit?" I wiped my hands, smiled. "Yeah, that's me." He grinned. "Cool." I didn't feel cool. I felt worn. But his, words stuck. People still talked about that speech, about the receipts, about me walking out of Camille's life. It was a thing now. Online, I was legend. To me, it was just the day I stopped being her shadow. The letter later, I was in the back office sorting paperwork when Sadie dropped a letter on the desk. "Mail for you," she said. The handwriting stopped me. Camille's. I hadn't heard from her since that last text. Months ago, the one I never answered. "You gonna read it?" Sadie asked from the doorway. I shrugged. Maybe. She rolled her eyes and left me to it. I opened it. Her words tumbled across the page, rushed like she couldn't hold them back. "Mason, I'm sorry. Not just for what I did, but for who I became. I lost myself and I lost you. I don't expect forgiveness. I just hope you're proud of who you are." I stared at the letter for a long time. I thought about those years. I'd broken myself to hold her up, the nights I came home to silence, the way she erased me. Then I thought about now, the shop humming, the kids learning, the life I'd built from the wreckage. Yeah, I was proud. Not because she said it, because I'd made it. I folded the letter, slid it into a drawer. I didn't write back. She didn't ask me to. She just needed to lay her burden down. That weight wasn't mine anymore. A quiet win. That night, I locked up Forge alone. The shop smelled like oil and dust and purpose. Tools lined up, floor swept, order. I touched the workbench, dented. Scarred mine. I thought about Camille's letter again, her seeing my worth. Too late. I didn't need her to see it now. I did, and the kids did. I'd spent years chasing her dream, thinking it was ours. But this was mine. By the lake. At sunset, I stood by the lake watching the apprentices wrestle with an old boat engine I'd hauled out there. The smell of earth and gasoline hung in the air. They cursed and laughed. One by one, they figured it out. Jake called, "Think we got it?" The engine roared. They cheered. "Not bad," I called back. "Now take it apart and do it again." They groaned and laughed and got to it. I leaned against my truck and watched. This wasn't exhaustion. This was peace. Deep, earned. I thought of Camille again, her voice, her dreams. I'd once thought I'd spend my life with her. Kids, house, maybe a dog. That dream was gone. I didn't miss it. Not anymore. Sadie told me later Camille was still in the city. Smaller hospital. No fellowship, no Julian. "She's quieter now," Sadie said. I nodded. Didn't ask more. Camille's life was hers to figure out. Mine was enough. A legacy, not a memory. The kids packed up. Jake ran over. "You coming tomorrow?" "Breaks, right?" "Yeah," I said. "You're leading it." His eyes lit up. Back at my place, I parked. Climbed the stairs. Small apartment, still smelled like oil, but it didn't feel empty. It felt full. I grabbed a beer, dropped on the couch, and closed my eyes. Camille's memory flickered once more, like a photo I didn't need to keep. She'd been my world. Once. I gave her everything. She walked away. And I found something better. Not her spotlight. Mine. I'd built it from the ground up. With my hands. With grit. And it stood strong. Tomorrow, and every day after tomorrow, I'd be up early. Back at Forge. Teaching, fixing, building. Sadie would be there, keeping it together. The kids would show up, loud and eager. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't easy, but it was real. And I didn't need applause. I had the sound of a working engine, the smile on Jake's face, the quiet hum of enough. I was Mason Reed. Not the man behind her degree, the man behind his own name. And that was more than enough.